Hey, deserving listeners, Love is Blind, the reunion, season 6. Let's check it out.
The comparison to Megan Fox.
Did you bring her? That's all I have.
She's hanging out in the back with
Please welcome
Trevor's girl. What are your thoughts on how this is playing out?
That was regrets. Big time. It was just a silly little comment that...
Yeah, I don't understand how it became a thing. I guess I do, but when you see the way she said it, it was very... In fact, I saw people accusing Chelsea of manipulating the whole thing, like some Machiavellian plan where she absolutely knows Megan Fox's name, but instead she just kind of slyly says, you know, who's Machine Gun Kelly's girlfriend or wife? Oh, Megan, yeah, I guess I look like her. Like, pretty awful. And really it says more about the accuser than it says anything about Chelsea. I don't think that was what was happening. It's possible, but it didn't look like that. I mean, she should have been a little bit more forward. Well, one, she just shouldn't have said it, because even if she was a dead ringer for Megan Fox, we have seen the ill effects of inserting those kinds of images in people's minds. And you're only, especially just strategy-wise, you're only going to come down from there, right? So you're just going to disappoint someone if you throw that out there. I mean, I imagine, right? It's a risk. And I don't think he needed to hear anything like that. So, yeah, I think it was a silly little comment that she just slid in there, like she said, and it was blown out of proportion.
Just slid in there, and my whole world has flipped upside down. I'm really, really stinking proud of myself for how I've been handling it. I didn't think I could, because the world is harsh. And you could say anything. You could say, I like the color pink, and people are gonna...
Yeah, that's not even exaggeration. It's awful. Yeah. Sounds like she's been handling it well, and I'm glad for her. And also, I think it's reasonable for her to have said that, because she has said, that's who people will say about me. And then she says, I don't really see it, but that's what people say. And I don't doubt that people have said that about her. I mean, she's not like a twin, but you could see people saying that.
He was invited to attend this reunion, but he politely declined.
Okay, yeah. All right. So it's interesting, I suppose.
And I'm sure you recall Matthew was accused of telling two women, AD and Amber, the same thing in the pod.
Well, yeah, this is satisfying. Well, I wonder if they knew. So when they edit the show, they edit the show before they have the reunion. So they might have known, well, we'll watch those scenes. This kind of lends itself to that, because they would want Matthew there to confront him about it. Because I was wondering why we didn't see any of the Amber stuff. And I think some people were suspecting that it didn't happen. But all things were pointing that it did, because Amber, independently of knowing that Matthew and AD were even a thing, she was just reporting to AD and other people the exact phrases that Matthew was saying. And then later AD said, he said the same thing to me. I mean, it'd be quite a manipulation on the production side if it was faked, you know what I mean? So, but I did wonder why they didn't show it. I was wondering if they just for time, but I thought that's drama that you would want. So maybe they're saving it. I think some people were saying, well, they knew that Amber wasn't going to be included, so that's why they edited it out. But I don't think I don't think that was a good choice. So it's good that they're showing us this.
I thought I knew who I was here for.
Uh-huh.
After today with you,
Yeah? Oh,
I am not sure.
Interesting.
okay, Matthew.
Today just felt very right. It feels just...
Okay, so he's saying, I thought coming into today I wanted to be with AD, but now I think I want to be with you. All right, so I think we're going to hear the exact phrases. I want to whisk you away. I think I said this at the time, that the most charitable explanation is that he was swept away in the moment. And he did say those two things, but there was a moment of that day when he felt it for Amber, and there's a moment when he felt it for AD, and he was on a roller coaster. For that to be true, you would imagine that he has some kind of deficit in being able to manage that situation. You know, like, I'm sure that happens to a lot of people, but when that happens, they would be prudent to not reveal it and maybe to indicate it slightly instead of just saying everything except for, I want to marry, will you marry me? So it could be that he was on a roller coaster and he just doesn't have the experience or the wisdom to manage those impulses, like the way a child is. I don't know.
No, it does. Well, thank you for saying that.
I just trying to be as honest as I can.
No, I like that. I like honesty.
Because I don't want to tell something to somebody else and then tell you something. Like, I'm just not going to do that.
Yeah. I don't think you should.
No.
Yikes. So I'm wondering what order this is in. I'm forgetting I don't think we ever knew the order, because AD hears it, comes into the lounge, hears Amber saying that she was told the same thing. And it also could have been on a different day. That at least would give Matthew a little bit of a possibility of a roller coaster, but if it's in the same day, but even in the same day, I'm not saying it's right. Now, on the other side of things, he could be lying to both. Just straight up lying and manipulating. That's a possibility. That's a common conceptualization that people will have. It is a possibility, but often it's way more complicated than that. At the very least, we're given a chance to see that it did happen. I think we're going to see it.
I guess when I think about you, I can really see it.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm smiling.
To me, yesterday, with you,
The two exact sentences side by side instead of watching the whole scene with Amber and then watching the whole scene with AD. And I think in that above shot, it's AD on the other side. I think his outfit it was his outfit. Let's do that, because let's keep track of his outfit, because that would at least hint that it's a different day. It doesn't always necessarily mean that.
Something like what?
Oh my God.
like a deep connection. There's a large part of me that thinks that there's really only two outcomes from this.
Yeah.
And that's either with you or not.
Oh.
I asked you about your dad because I really don't know if I could propose.
Yeah, it does look like the same outfit. So that does lend itself to the same day. He could wear the same outfit on 2 different days, but not likely.
That is really, really thoughtful.
If you want to leave, I'll leave with you.
For real?
Yeah, I would. Did you say Matthew? Let's get the hell out of here.
Yeah, I remember this moment. I mean, all's well that ends well, I suppose, but yikes.
Not feeling right, like not asking my dad like that, just speaks volumes, I think, too.
Oh, wait, I was wrong. He has a different outfit. So that points in the direction of 2 different days. It's still awful, but you could do the same. You remember Johnny? I think I even mentioned that. That was what she was being accused of, very harshly, I think unfairly. It's possible, but I don't think it was accurate that Johnny was lying to everybody. I think that when Johnny was telling Izzy and then telling Chris, I think she had a change of heart, but not even that much of a change of heart, because you're trying to side between 2 people, and you might either tell yourself or you want to tell the world, once you do make a choice, that you might exaggerate the difference a little bit. You don't want to tell the person that you want to be with, I'm 51% you. You want to say, I'm 100% you, I'm 0% that other person, even if you don't really feel it. You would try to convince yourself of that, right? But you're really 51%. Then your 51% dumps you, Izzy, and then Johnny's like, it's different. Chris, you're my, especially if you're having troubles with that kind of stuff. So it's possible that Matthew had the same thing, independent of having something that was noticeably a pushback, right? Because for Johnny, Izzy breaks up with Johnny, and that's what causes her to flip, which is legitimate. It also could be deluding herself or other people just to stay on the show. I don't know. But it's possible for someone to have that flip legitimately without a push, right? Without someone making him make that choice, right? He could have one day felt this way towards Amber and another day felt that way again for AD. There was something about the dates that just went differently. his heart went a certain way. Okay. It's also possible that he's straight up lying. There's a lot of indications. Well, what's the most likely answer? The most likely answer is that that narrative is true, given statistics and given not statistics, but my understanding of the average variability and deviation from the mean humans exhibit. Because for someone to be that callous and that Machiavellian that even I was wondering about, that's really far from the mean. You know what I mean? Anyway, so for him, it's likely that he was on a roller coaster and he lacks the ability to check himself before he wrecks himself, and or when he feels those feelings, they're very intense for him, and it clouds his judgment about what to say. So that that's possible. And then all of that, people want America loves underdog. America's going to love me. Again, maybe he is immature and lacks experience or know how to manage. It's normal for them to think about that. It's not strange that they do think about that, but he can't process that easily and verbalizes it often. And under the stress, he really kind of sticks to this kind of odd way of presenting himself. It's possible that he isn't lacking in empathy, but has a hard time managing the experiences and the emotions, and became overwhelmed and then kind of glitched in the stuff that he was saying. I'm also remembered of when Matthew was saying, "You want to be with me," but that could also be kind of an inexperienced thing, and like I'm trying to figure how things. But it also could be a sign of abuse. Now, there's not much data to go off of, but I talked about it then that the way he was talking, it was in the vein that would lead to gaslighting, of getting underneath people's skin who are susceptible to that and defining other people for them. People that are more susceptible to other people's influence, and then you just say, "You want to be with me. I know you want to be with me. I can tell you want to be with me." And someone who's susceptible to that and trapped will start to believe, I do want to be with you. You're right. So that either inadvertently or on purpose could be a pattern of some really horrible pattern and impulse that he has, but I don't know.
And I just really appreciate that you said that
This is insane.
you think that's the right way to do it. Because if it got to it
Yeah.
and we were at the end,
Yeah.
I would tell him I'm not doing it unless I talk to her dad. So.
Yeah, there's the dad moment. And the way it looks very shady and psychopathic, because it's hard to imagine having, one, the exact feeling, and two, the exact phrases. It's like a shtick, and it does kind of lend itself to that. Con artists will have an MO. Like when I was watching the Who the Fuck Did I Marry series, it appeared the allegations were pointing at an MO of him, Legion, love bombing, marriage or engagement, moving in, becoming a parasite, and then eventually getting caught in all the lies and skipping town. And then next town, another woman, same thing. The same lies, right, about these mysterious family members that the wife never gets to talk to, all that kind of stuff. So it's a pattern that they either developed watching it or they just found a formula early on. It's the same with serial killers, right? It's a different kind of, it could be a similar motivation, but you just do what works. We all do this, right? When we go on, if you've ever gone on a long series of dates, like 20 different dates over the span of, a few months or something, or even 5 first dates over the span of a few months. If you're aware, you probably will notice that you have certain things that you do common across all the different dates. Certain questions, certain ways of flirting, how you might broach the topic of making out. You either always wanted to do it that way, so you're always doing it that way, or you did it that way in the beginning and it seems like, okay, I'm familiar with that path, so I'll just do that every time. So, we all do that. And maybe that's what it is for him. I don't know.
Oh, my story is obsolete then.
Did you ever reconnect with Matthew in the real world after the show?
I did.
Okay. Okay.
Hopefully it was just like a closure thing, or let's be nice to each other. What? AD saw what we all saw. Now, maybe AD thinks, well, maybe she has that point of view as a possibility. Maybe she wanted to find out. What? Or are we seeing another example of AD putting herself on the back burner or being manipulated by him? What are we seeing?
Okay,
Well,
so
what can you tell us about the little pistachio of Matthew? Did you end up cracking that nut?
He's like drilling a hole in the side of my head.
Yeah, and it looks like Clay didn't even know. I guess why would he? But okay, well.
does Clay not know about
Yeah,
this?
is this news to you, Clay?
No, it's not.
Okay,
It's not. She told me that she met with Matthew.
okay.
Matthew and I,
Oh, we went on a few dates. Okay, let's hear it out.
we went on a few dates.
How many?
Like two-ish. The first one, he wanted to apologize to me.
Yeah, I'm guessing, and maybe it was on the up and up, but I'm guessing that's how it went down, that Matthew, whoever initiated the DMing or whatever, he eventually says, let's meet up, I want to apologize. Okay, so if that is legit, then that's good. It also is kind of a classic manipulation, because if you're trying to weasel your way in to someone that is like, oh, no. Well, hey, I want to apologize. Give me a chance. And then you get your hooks in them again. But we don't know. Maybe he was legitimately, so we'll hear AD, but I don't know if we can trust her, honestly, because why, if it sounds like she wanted to date him. She says dates. If you want an apology, they can apologize over the phone. Or, okay, let's talk about, write it out. If you want to apologize, email me. But she said date, so she wanted to date him before he apologized. But that's consistent with a lot of the hypothesis I have. I'm more astonished for her, and I'm worried about her self-preservation. The ability, she seems like a very smart, able, assertive, wise individual, but I think her traumas have created for her this almost dissociative state when men like her, whether it's Matthew or Clay, where she just turns off, hands over everything. She's either very sure of herself and assertive and able, or turn off. It's not the first time anyone's ever observed that in a human being. So is that what happened? That he engaged with her and she's just like, oh, she turns off. Okay, hey, let's do it. If it was anything like the conversations of the pods, you can imagine how that went. Yikes for her, and the trauma response for her, and it's a well-known general trauma response of fight or flight or freeze, appease, or faint. Sometimes they like to keep it all F's, so it's fight, flight, freeze, fawn instead of appease, and faint. Those are the responses when you're terrified.
He was heartbroken. He was very, very upset about the way everything played out and the way he felt like he kind of played in both of our faces. So the first one, he really wanted to take the time and apologize. And I was like, Matthew kind of cute. Like, low-key, he's cute, y'all. Like,
okay. Even if you give him the benefit of the doubt that he was on a roller coaster, there were so many other problems with the presentation. So many. I don't think AD has terrible judgment. Because I was going to say, well, maybe she isn't as wise, generally speaking. But I don't think that's true. I think it's the turning off and or the movement of the goalpost, because when she was young, she was treated very poorly by men only, maybe. And thus she's like, well, Matthew isn't as bad as the people that I had growing up, so they must be okay.
And he ended up cooking me dinner.
A for effort.
A for effort.
So that fizzled out?
It did. We live two completely different lifestyles. He's very disciplined, not like I'm not, but he's like extremely to the clock, like every minute is.
All right, that's interesting. And I know a lot of people are speculating, or I don't, do I know this? I don't know if I know this. I imagine a lot of people are speculating that Matthew is on the autism spectrum. I think I talked about that previously, at least I remember thinking it. And I also think I remember saying, I'm not a big fan of seeing quirkiness and just assuming that that's the case, or even really suggesting, because there's so many other possibilities. And I don't want to participate in this cultural knee-jerk reaction. People will be very sure of themselves when it's ridiculous. The kinds of things that I see the ever-expanding definition of autism expanding to some people, like people will say, oh my God, I'm such a loner, I'm so autistic or something, stuff where I'd be like, well, maybe, but that's not a hallmark, and certainly you would need more than that. Some people with autism will exhibit this kind of behavior. Not all of them, that's for sure. But when you have every minute planned out and you have a routine, you can predict things. Things are less intense and less variable, less chaotic, less open to chaos. And thus you're able to subdue the inputs into your life and into your mind. And that can help, right? Because the processing can be so overwhelming when there's too many things that are coming at them. One way of looking, one model is that for people with autism, at varying levels of intensity of autism, they lack the mechanism that can tune out most of your perceptions. Because at any given time, your nervous system is firing and perceiving like millions of things. Like right now for me, I have 4 lights that are pretty bright. I have what's in front of me, which has a lot of different things that are happening. Behind the screen is a window with other lights, and then I can see my Lego Star Wars AT-AT snow walker. I can feel the seat beneath me. I can feel the shirt. I mean, for people with autism spectrum, often all of those experiences, not always, and not always in this way, but all of those experiences are front and center, and they don't have a mechanism, or their mechanism isn't as, within typical limits of automatically tuning that out. Like right now, I need to tune out all of those things and many, many more things, the temperature of the room, little noises here and there, in order for me to concentrate on the task at hand, which is talking to you and making sure that I stay in the camera and all that kind of stuff. My body, my mind, my nervous system has to automatically, without me putting any effort into it, block all that shit out. And then imagine if I was in a different environment, right? Like I'm in public and there's all these loud noises, or you're in a high emotional situation in the pods, So one, it's hard to focus and hard to process all of that. And when you have all that coming in, sometimes nothing really gets processed. The other thing is it can be very annoying, and if it's a lot, it can become unbearably painful, essentially. The amount of inputs that's happening, it's like the loudest noise you've ever heard, and the brightest lights, and the screamiest of face, and the scariest of this, and the smelliest of, the inputs come in. Now, there's a whole other concept called highly sensitive people. Sometimes they're called gifted people. I think I am on that spectrum because I have some of the hallmarks. Like, I hate tags on shirts. I can't wear anything that is, well, I can't wear any jewelry. It just is so annoying. It's like I constantly am feeling it. I have other hallmarks too. Like, I feel emotions pretty intensely. I talk intensely. I react intensely. You know what I mean? And I have a lot of ideas, and I stay up at night. And if there's no stimulation, my mind starts racing with all these things. And I mean, I'm sort of exaggerating, but it's hard to know how to conceptualize these things because all we can do is ask people about their experience and maybe look at behavior and try to conceptualize. There's a possibility that autism spectrum in the future we will find is a lumping together of like 35 different individual conditions and differences. But we don't know what's happening, so we just kind of cram them all in. Because, a lot of people with autism spectrum will say, if you've met one person with autism spectrum, you've met one person with autism spectrum, meaning everyone is very different. And you can't make an easy universal presentation or list of differences. Anyway, is it possible that Matthew is exhibiting enough data to justify an hypothesis that maybe he is on the spectrum? I would say yes, but if given his presentation, the data I've seen, if he were to ask me to assess him, which I wouldn't agree to anyway, but in a weird universe because of the ethics involved. But anyways, but if he asked me to assess him, yeah, autism spectrum would be one of the things, but I would need so much more data to even begin to even introduce that idea to the client. I would also be very aware that there are lots of other conceptualizations, including things that we don't really have DSM labels for or condition labels for. There's a lot of things about the human experience that we in my field have not given a word for, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And it also doesn't mean that the closest word to the thing is always the thing. There's a lot of personality disorders, there's a lot of quirks, there's a lot of neuro differences, there's a lot of human experiences or human variation, individual differences that we don't even have a word or a construct or research that looks at that particular thing. We've only had so much time to research and the humans of our world, and also we tend in my field to focus on the most noticeable things, the things that are causing problems people come to us and ask us help with. And so then we are like, oh, we better figure out what's going on here. So I would have a lot of other possibilities, and I would have it as a provisional option, but I would purposely force myself to make sure that there's a lot more data there to support that. And given his presentation, it's possible that I might not ever know, because when you have his presentation, at least of autism spectrum, there are other candidates that feel equally as applicable. Whereas the general public tends to really want to know what's the diagnosis, what's wrong, and what's going on. I think that compels a lot of people to diagnose from afar. When I watch that, I just think, well, okay, fine, but you don't have enough data for that. But we're hearing more data. So he likes things to be very rigid, and AD is saying that was unappealing. I'm wondering if interacting with him in person in 3D, she just didn't feel a connection, because he does come across as kind of cold. And if so, I wonder if in the pods, given his presentation, she inserted a lot of things that weren't there, like more warmth.
Planned out, whereas I'm kind of like, with the wind a little bit. And he just wants different things, and so do I, and we left it right there.
Clay, you want to go run some laps and get this out of your system?
Okay. All right. And the fact that AD is not telling us that he tried to kill her or that and maybe she wouldn't tell us, but the fact that she's not saying, and boy, did I see some things, And, she doesn't seem like the type that would do that, but it doesn't seem like that happened. That points in the direction that he's not a super problematic person, but became overwhelmed for whatever reason. And his inexperience led to him presenting in a very strange manner. I don't know. Like I said, he's an odd one. I can't figure it out. And I'll probably never know. I just have to be okay with that.
And how much he wanted a somewhat nomadic lifestyle. And Chelsea, I hear you have a big job shift that's allowed maybe more of that to happen. You care to share anything about that?
Absolutely. I have an amazing privilege and honor to help cast for Love is Blind. Thank you.
Interesting. Yeah. All right. And I guess that's kind of a win-win because the production gets someone that is more appealing than just a random person who's casting, because Chelsea might be recognizable as a mini celebrity, but also Chelsea would be able to soothe any fears and also inform cast way more effectively, because the other casting person might know from afar what it's like to be a cast member, but wouldn't know what it's actually like, right? Now, Chelsea and the production have an incentive to sugarcoat all that, but I don't know. I kind of think that Chelsea would have integrity around that, hopefully. So maybe it's a good thing for our team, which is advocating for cast. It's not as far as we need to go, but let's hope it's a good thing.
So right next to you, I'm watching Micah and Izzy. Kind of something seems to be going on over there. And you guys have a little announcement. Should
No. Yeah.
be the time for them to share that with everybody? Do you want to share?
Izzy, do you want to tell them?
I think you should tell them.
So Izzy and I are actually going to be on the next season of Perfect Match.
Oh, okay. Well, it's just a promo for another show. I was wondering why those two in particular, particularly Izzy, because he hasn't said anything yet. So, okay. And, some of me is like, well, I can understand Micah because I think she has a pretty big following. So those people would be interested, but and maybe Izzy does too. I don't know.
Sisterhood, the brotherhood, the relationships that build. And Jessica, you and Micah have bonded.
Yeah, I feel like it's hard for people to imagine that someone that looks like that could have like a heart of true gold. But I've never in my life met someone who is so kind,
Do people have a hard time imagining that Jessica might be a good person or at least a human being? I would hope that would not be true. Is that true? Like somehow the uglier you are, the more of a heart you have? What? No?
Oh, thank you, friend. Thank you.
So Izzy, what's been going on with you
up?
since the last time we saw you? Catch us up.
Not much, man. Just enjoying life, been traveling, and I think the best part of it all is the credit's fixed, We're here, baby. We're here.
Okay. Did he make it big on Instagram and was able to pay it off? Yeah. I'm trying to remember. I remember thinking it wasn't like a horrendous amount. So, it's possible he just worked it off.
Yeah, thank you. I was production. Production was always so great.
What are y'all gonna miss about this whole ride?
Miss Lachey, the food. I miss the food.
So, I don't know. It's possible that it's not encouraged, but they're asking the previous cast members what they miss. And one person says, I miss production, and the other person says, I miss food. You miss the food. Maybe they're joking. Maybe it's sarcastic, like, oh, I missed, remember? Yeah. So, that's odd.
Well, on that note, Clay, did I see a video of you microwaving Gatorade?
Yeah, what was that?
What?
Honestly,
What's this? Does everyone know about something? Microwaving Gatorade. Does he like it warm? That would be my assumption.
I will just tell America that I would never put liquid in a plastic in a microwave. These mugs really.
Are you not? I mean, I don't do that because I wouldn't use it that way. But is that a thing? You're not supposed to microwave a plastic bottle with liquids? Is that true? Right. So a quick Google, it says that if you microwave liquid in plastic, then it might cause leaching of the plastic chemicals into the liquid, and then you would be drinking the chemicals. But it's not always the case. So they just say, if you can, put the liquid into a ceramic container, like a coffee cup or a glass container.
He gave me noodles and red sauce.
And now is this a cutie? I don't understand what's happening. What did he put in there? It didn't look like a... Yeah, he's just microwaving something on a plate. But then he says, these mugs are really good. What is happening?
Mugs really gave me noodles and red sauce.
Or it might have been an optical illusion, right? A reflection, maybe.
I think so too.
Okay, so you do not microwave Gatorade.
And it looked like that was the pods, the lounge. And am I to understand that a lot of people online were talking about him microwaving Gatorade and they just didn't see it correctly? I don't care. Why would anyone care? I don't know. Someone likes warm Gatorade, who cares? People do weird stuff. Not weird, they just do stuff that doesn't bother you, so I don't know. It's late. That's very late after midnight.
You cannot believe everything you read out there. I mean, guys, I for one am starving. You guys want to dive in? Let's get into this thing.
Thank you, everybody, to the love.
And then, of course, they have a lot of food. So, but this doesn't really serve them because they denied everyone the food until the end. So you gotta, the good people get food, the bad people don't. Like Trevor isn't getting this food. I don't know. I'm guessing that at the problems with food in the beginning was there's a possibility it was like a cult technique to manipulate people. And a lot of people think, well, it's because they're trying to make him drink alcohol. It's possible. But I think it's also possible that production would not want people to not eat and drink a bunch of booze because there's a fine line between tipsy and fun and sloppy and unwatchable, I mean, I guess people would argue they would want that too. Like Jessica, season 1, she was pretty sloppy, meaning that she had overdrank. It looked that way. And that was TV gold. So what do I know? But I think given everything I heard from Nick Thompson, who was, he's the main spearhead of all the food stuff because he talked about how he wasn't given enough food. He lost like 20 plus pounds, something like that, over the span of like a week or two. Anyway, I think what happens is there's a lot of logistics that go into all of the show, and there's a lot of movement of food, and they have to feed everybody, not just the cast, but I think they have to feed all of the production, which is like a huge crowd of people. In the pods, I think there's hundreds of people working. And then when the getaway, there's like individual teams that are pretty large, a lot of people, right? And then people outside of that. And I think they just lost track. And because the cast members have no power, because they don't have their wallet or their phone, they can't leave their room when they first land in the other country. The people who don't have the power to ambulate themselves to say either, hey, I need food, or find food somewhere else, are completely dependent on the logistics. And when everything starts to break down, the people with less power, like in society, will lose out, not out of purposefulness, but out of a system that isn't well oiled or designed well. And that's my suspicion. Did they ply them with drinks? I mean, I guess so. They put alcohol. It's very attractive, right? They could actually not have any alcohol, or they could limit the alcohol, but they didn't do that. So they clearly are okay with people getting blotto. People say that? Blotto? And then The water thing, I think, was a similar thing. And I think once Nick Thompson came out with that, they said, we got to get on top of this shit. We've got to start actually being much more over the top, not for show necessarily, but this is ridiculous. We have cast members that were starving and didn't have any water. What is happening? No, let's have 5 times the amount of food, and then, and if we happen to show it a lot, then maybe people will shut up about it. I imagine that's probably, they're to fault, and they're, someone is to blame, or a system is to blame, or something, and they should have done better. And there's a possibility that it wasn't nefarious, and they've heard and they've changed their ways, and it's different now. I will say there's something incredibly unappealing about the way that food looks to me. I don't know why. It looks like the way they make food look in old-timey movies when they're trying to make it look very scrumptious, and it's just like there's too many colors. I don't know.
Fine family for returning today. Thank you to our season 6 friends for opening your hearts and sharing your journey.
You know what I mean? Like the food, it looks disgusting for some reason. That's shrimp, which I recently have developed a terrible allergy to. Maybe that's why I'm upset. Get the shrimp away from me.
Our couches at a future reunion, just like our OGs. Thank you to our OGs.
Yep, and thank you all very much. Here's the love, the search, the journey,
and happy endings.
We'll see you next time.
All right. Well, I don't think that's the end of this series for me, because I am going to administer a survey for everyone to fill out tomorrow. And then I'll probably just do one more episode, one follow-up episode with those results. And then I will do my final word, right? And everyone out there, please take care of yourself. And if it's really late at night, get to bed and get a good night's sleep. And don't let the bed bugs bite, because you deserve it. You really, really do.